Oh, it's everything's fine, right?
Everything's fine.
Okay, perfect. All right, so welcome back everyone to our final morning meditation of this week. So I will take questions, but not immediately. Let's just immediately start with a 10-minute session of either surrender or self-inquiry, whatever you prefer. Yeah, open eyes if you can, otherwise no worries. Let's try that. We'll open the floor right now to questions or comments about the experience you just had, or any other questions that have come up while trying to apply the practice so far generally. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was really chasing the feeling of the silence. The silence, I got it immediately. Who is feeling it? And then because I'm chasing that intensively, because of that some feeling came. And then like I'm just observing, and then they become less and less intensified, like the keen observation, keen like hearing, keen feeling, all those things like less intensified, then they are also passing through kind of a feeling, and then I don't feel anything, everything is kind of, even that settles, and then I feel that everything gone through me and I'm still observing the blankness, or then go further with that observation also. And I feel that everything is less intensified. Even some new distraction comes, they're also floating through, or they do not even, some of them don't even floating through kind of so gone, and then you feel like you're in that mode of kind of permanent thing, but that's also another feeling.
Yes, exactly.
Go down.
Exactly.
And you start to search that feeling.
Yeah.
Will come, but I know how to handle that. That also, it's hitting the surface. It's not hitting the surface. It's not at all there kind of a feeling. That's it.
And so exactly, so whatever's happening precisely, you just said your mind gets subtler and subtler, and as you noted, at every point of increasing subtlety or even decreasing subtlety, you're just noticing, I'm still here watching, looking for that,
watching feeling.
Looking for the watcher.
The watching feeling, plus even the watching feeling, how do I get it?
Yes.
If I say how, then a lot more feeling okay, my feeling shows up, but that gets intensified, that gets down, and then also I feel that I'm just less intensified. Observing happens, observing of what things flowing through you.
Right, but regardless of whether it's more intense or less intense, we're always trying to turn the
attention to the
watcher.
The watching, yes,
the watcher. Not the watching itself, we might say, but the watcher. Right? It's as if, for example, you have like a laser pointer, and we're pointing at different things in the room, right? But what we're trying to do is, we're trying to turn the laser pointer onto itself. Because like our attention is like that laser pointer. Like whatever we choose to focus on, that like attentional focus, whatever it is that the spotlight of attention that is shining on this and then that thing.
Yeah.
That spotlight is shining from some source, like a flashlight. We're trying to turn the spotlight of attention back onto itself. That's what inquiry is trying to do, basically. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Anybody else?
So, I just need a little bit of clarification in my mind. When we use active words such as chasing or hunting the fear, so that's a little bit confusing to me, because it is not something to be chased, is my feeling. It has to be something that we repose in ourselves. Like, for example, there's a metaphor in the Bhagavad Gita about a tortoise withdrawing its limbs into the shell. It's not trying to chase the shell. We are simply reposing, retrieving, coming back to the source. So if we try to chase it, I think we are still emphasizing the separation. That's how I feel.
Okay, well, so I'll say two things. One is the reposing language works fine. That's more like surrender, that's all. So surrender is like, yeah, withdrawing from outside things, increasingly withdrawing. That's just surrender language. As far as the chasing language in the self-inquiry, first of all, as you chase I, you do automatically, you are withdrawing your attention from other things in the process. But it's okay to keep emphasizing the separation because you cannot jump to non-separation directly. What we're trying to do is not jump to non-separation directly. We're trying to jump to this vulnerable point in the illusion, you might say. This sensitive particular point, which will turn out not to be a point at all. So we actually need to emphasize the separation because we're so used to not thinking about that facet of it, that subject facet, that I facet, the attender facet. We're always just looking outward and ignoring the I part. So here we're bringing the I into sharp focus, and we're making like the foreground the background, and the background the foreground, so to say. So, and we need to chase, we need to focus our attention on that little separate piece, which is not really a piece, but we can't know that directly until it shows itself that. Because the thing is, otherwise we're just coming into a, how to put this, we're falling into a preconceived notion of what unity is. We have some sort of mental idea of it's all one or something like that. That's just an idea. The actual unity is not that. The actual unity is not representable in our idea terms. So the only way to get to the actual unity is by pursuing this particular separate facet, really, really intensely, basically. Does that make sense? Huh?
I was practicing of self-inquiry and surrenderness, alternate.
Sure.
Then one thought dominated my mind. If something happens, if it is a happy thing, usually we are ready to accept and move on. If something happens to one of my family members, immediate family, or my sibling in their family, or for myself, something happens bad, they had to undergo some problem. From how to take this, in karma theory, we always say that something we did in the previous birth that's carrying, and this is we had to finish in this birth. But in the light of this self-inquiry and surrenderness, I can see that it is again a movie going on the screen,
yeah.
And I just watch that and I'm not affected by
right.
that. In self-inquiry, again, I can question, because it happens to anybody, that gives a pain to me. Again, that feeling of pain, I analyze in the light of self-inquiry, whom does it occur? But my question is there a deep way I can, karma theory really gives you a cushioning effect for your pain, saying that it is beyond your control and you have
Sure.
to fulfill. But how do we get this kind of cushioning effect in this search of self-inquiry and surrender?
In self-inquiry and surrender, what you're suggesting is the reason you're concerned about the pain is because you think it's your pain. So, but do you know who you are in that situation?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, we're only seeking to justify the pain in the first place. Why is this pain happening? Because we first think it's my pain. So I want to know why I'm being hurt. Why is the universe hurting me? That's right? And then we have all these explanations. But surrender and self-inquiry are starting at a more basic point. They're saying, are you actually being hurt? Who are you that thinks they're being hurt in the first place by this pain? You see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the direct attack, basically. So rather than trying to justify it, we're saying, is it even so? It seems like it's so, but we refuse to take it at face value.
So, a couple of
things. One is, so I was trying to practice self-inquiry while all this was going on.
Mm-hmm.
So the observation is that there is a bifurcation, right? One is, constantly asking who's listening, who's, hearing, all those. But at the same time, I have this kind of a radar, that is getting that information. So that was one observation.
Huh?
The second is, as I continue to practice, the words, right? Who am I? So I was trying to see, can I, is there a way to just get it experiential without the words?
Mm-hmm.
So these are the two things, that I wanted some, clarification on.
So the first you're saying is basically that as you're doing inquiry, you're noticing you're still receiving information from the outside world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I mean, it may not always be like that depending on the intensity of your inquiry, or it may seem not to be like that, but nothing wrong with that per se at all. That's totally fine. You can keep inquiring, 100%. And then as far as the second piece, which is, tell me what it is.
So it is, like, instead of repeatedly asking
Oh,
the
yeah,
question, who
non-verbal.
am I, who's listening,
Yeah.
who's the words,
Yeah. So,
and the words and the thoughts, right?
Yes,
so I
yes.
feel that's,
Correct.
kind of hindering.
yeah, you don't need the words. So
But how do I, without the words, it's not, like, I'm, finding it hard to not do the self-inquiry without the words.
without the words. I mean, so you can rely on the words for a while, but basically you have to understand, to go beyond the words, you have to understand which will, happen when it happens, is, but you have to understand what exactly it is we're trying to look for, right? So again, and again, I'm sort of limited to the same vocabulary. You try to find different ways to phrase it, but, it's difficult to phrase it beyond a certain set of sets, basically. The thing to notice is that your knowledge of yourself as the noticer of experience is something which is itself in your experience. It's like, it's as if it's not exactly right, just as, but it's analogous to any other kind of sensation you're having. So, you're tasting something, you're touching something, right? So for example, suppose you were, feeling some fabric, okay? And I ask you, well, what does that fabric really feel like? What does it feel like? I want you to really feel it. Is it rough? Is it, is it smooth? Is it bumpy? Is it cold? Is it warm, right? Like, you can use these words like, yeah, what does it feel like? I can give you all these descriptors. But you don't need those words to feel your feeling, right? You can non-verbally directly feel what it's like. So similarly, not exactly the same, but analogously, we have this experience that we are experiencing. Like the fact that we are experiencing, the fact that we are the experiencer, the fact that we are the observer, the fact that we are the noticer. This is something which we know every second, which is a second piece of data apart from the actual object experienced. So that facet of our experience essentially it's as if it's a fabric that we are continuously running our hands across every second. And what we're being told is, okay, feel, what exactly is that fabric? And so, so the key thing to understand, which is, sometimes it takes a while to sink in, to really sink in what exactly is going on. I mean, in a way, you can argue that, it's a large part of inquiry to really grasp this, right? But, when you recognize that what you're looking for is non-verbally there, and you're just trying to zoom in on it, zoom in on you, and you can do that non-verbally, basically. And so for that zooming in, to facilitate that, to prompt that, to, turn people in the right direction, we use these, these stimulus words like, yeah, who am I? Where am I? Etc. Where is my awareness coming from? What is the source of my awareness, right? But ultimately, they're all pointing to this basic, ordinary, very seemingly ordinary sense of I'm here, I'm being, my beingness right now. You know, that beingness is something that I know. It's just ordinary, like I'm awake right now. I know that I'm awake. I don't know it because my vision of the wall tells me I'm awake, or because the voice that I'm hearing tells me I'm awake. I know I'm awake apart from any specific particular phenomenon that I'm experiencing, apart from any particular thought, apart from any particular feeling. There's something separate from that that lets me know I'm awake. So that little piece, which is, you know, quiet and hidden, but it's not hidden at all. I should say it's just unattended to. You know, it's there. So that piece, that facet of our experience, like what is it exactly? Right? Can we find what exactly it is when we feel that? What are we feeling exactly? What are we feeling when we feel ourselves as the feeler? When we say I'm awake, when we say I'm aware, when we say I am, when we say I'm experiencing, I know I'm experiencing, I'm self-aware. If someone says to you, you know, oh, you know, are you aware of your arm right now? You know? And then you go inside and you consult something. Like, oh yeah, am I aware of my arm right now? You know? Like, what do you consult? What do you consult? You consult something. What do you consult? That's the way self-inquiry. What am I consulting when I'm able to answer that question? So you see what I'm saying? So when we get a grasp of that, the need for words will fall off. Anyone else?
I have a general question, it has nothing to do with the meditation.
Sure.
Is even Gita and the scriptures, they say you need to have some prerequisites to do the self-inquiry.
Yeah.
So those prerequisites, unless we are from day to day, I mean, you are involved in sense pleasures.
Sure.
So my goal is like not to have, I don't think of moksha and mukti and all that.
Mm-hmm.
My goal is like to face the situation and manage the situation.
Okay.
Tough situation.
Uh-huh.
And then I know it is all temporary.
Uh-huh.
So when we are still involved in sense pleasures and all that, do we have to do this, spend a lot of time inquiring? Of course, the basic inquiry is there.
Yes.
Do I have to do this inquiry, spend more time in this inquiry?
So you're saying, so even regardless of a quest for moksha or mukti or anything like that, or freedom, just in terms of dealing with life better and handling its difficult situations, is this useful? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, but this, do I have to spend, I know the basic things about self-inquiry. Do I have to
Yes.
spend more time on this, then I know that I haven't fulfilled my prerequisites.
Well, you know, see, this question of prerequisites is a fluid thing, okay? So how do you know what prerequisites are required to be fulfilled? The measure is when you attempt to do this practice and you run into certain barriers, if those barriers prevent you from doing the practice, then you'll know that certain prerequisites have not been fulfilled. But if you find yourself passionate about finding who you are, then sufficient amount of the prerequisites have been fulfilled. That's a way of looking at it. So, you know, if you don't feel like you, how should I put this? Nothing, of course, forces you to do these practices, obviously. You know, if you want, you can just do karma yoga. You know, that's fine. That's a very powerful practice. It purifies the mind. It will help you through difficult situations, you know. These practices are there to ultimately to get you to, moksha. That is their purpose. So, but if you don't feel like you want that, or you don't feel like you're ready for that, even so, these practices still have, despite that, the powerful effect of increasing your peace, you know. So I would encourage them regardless. So I would say, you know, there's no strict checklist you have to run down. I mean, though they've been given about prerequisites, the prerequisites will reveal themselves if you're too sunk in, you know, let's say, like you say, sense pleasures, and you're too attached to them to be able to do these practices. You'll find out when you do the practice, you know, like, oh, I'm not willing to do it. And then you'll start to see all the holes that need to be filled, and you can deal with them. So even then, it will educate you, it will teach you where you need to go next. So I would say it's almost, you can't go wrong with doing these practices, actually. Because if you're not qualified for it, you're only able to do it to a certain extent. And then you can work on the qualifications if you want, think of it that way.
But what's in the sense is like, as long as you, when the Sridevi brought up that tough situation, how do you handle it? As long as you don't categorize the experience, this is happy, this is unhappy. So then that works better. Like what I'm saying is, if you don't, you are an experiencer.
Sure.
But as long as you don't categorize the experience
as happy or unhappy,
which is happy, one is happy, one is unhappy. Then maybe I can move forward some more and then do the self-acting.
Yeah, I mean, you can think of it that way, but the problem is, you know, unfortunately, experiences, it's often not really in our control whether or not we categorize them as happy or unhappy.
That's why we have to learn, like, not to categorize that. It's just an experience.
You can try that, but that's an attitude change, right? So there's a level of attitudes where you're trying to change your attitudes, which can be useful for a while. But what happens is ultimately it's kind of a losing battle because you may not always be able to control your attitudes so precisely. Surrender and inquiry are saying trying to control the mind at the level of attitudes is kind of a losing proposition at the end. Rather than trying to control the mental attitudes, try to see what the source of the mind is. Because then all the attitudes and the problems that go with it all will, like, poof, disappear all at once, so to say. So, you know, it's not to say that your approach is wrong. If it's working for you, then great. But ultimately controlling mental attitudes is difficult because they're not really in your control. That's why, basically, the mind is not really in our control. The mind is not really under our control. The idea that we can control our mind, that we can make ourselves think positively all the time, that we can control whether or not we judge a situation as happy or unhappy, it's not really true in the end. In the end, the mind is just as much natural phenomenon as, you know, the weather outside. So, you know, these practices are trying to show us, stop trying to control the mind all the time. You're not going to succeed. The important point is to recognize, I am not the mind. That's the important point, you know, rather than trying to control the weather, because it's not going to work in the end. Anybody else? Okay, let's do another 10 minutes then. Go ahead, please.
I feel that it's easy for me to become an observer and witness everything, and try to change as an observer, and then I feel that with every single thought, my observer is there, and then also I feel outside, inside, and then with everybody's things also like that, and then also I don't chase intensively. Also, I'm feeling, I feel that observer is there, kind of a feeling. And so I feel, so it's easy to become a witness, like witness of everything floating through. And then, but the chasing gives you some kind of more thoughts, and then, but other thoughts I was able to ignore, but the intense location of it's I can see that it's mingled with every single thing, and it's mingled outside too. It's mingled with everybody's thought also, kind of a feeling. You know, the outside. I know I'm dependent on some things outside too, right? So I feel that the observer is there too, kind of a feeling, and then I don't even have that intensity of the observer search, then again I feel the consistent calmness, but I want to look at feeling finally again.
Yeah. So, that's exactly right. You know, because, like you say, mingled with all these different things, right?
Yeah.
There is that.
There's a static, but it's a static constant thing
It's a
with
constant, exactly.
with every single thing going
that's right.
on.
That's exactly
That
right.
I by not by saying I feel it.
You feel that
Well,
way.
and then my intensity goes off, and suddenly everything goes off also. That also I feel that the observer is dominant, like a potent, he's there potentially.
So so again, right, to notice, right? I mean, this is the right direction. But I just want you to notice, right? So the one who is, right, the one who's noticing the observer, right?
Yeah.
We're looking for that one. The one who's because you're noticing.
Yeah.
Ah, yes, there is, there is a constant, right? The one who's noticing.
Yeah, it's a constant. Yes.
The one who's noticing that fact.
Yes.
We're looking for that one. And you said location, which I wanted to emphasize actually anyway, right? Because again, it is really helpful, I think, speaking of words and questions, this idea of where am I? Like I, who am the observer, let's suppose, or I who, anyway, not even say where the observer, but I. Where am I located?
Yeah.
Where?
Yeah.
And if ideas come like, oh, I'm inside and outside and all that, those are just concepts. So
Yeah,
the one who's aware of those concepts, we're trying to feel where that one is. And if the response is some kind of concept, we're not in that concept because we're aware of that concept.
Yes, correct.
Right? So we're looking for where our location is apart from any concept.
Yeah, see, that's what I tried to find out, where the location is, and I said, okay, the location is hot, location is here, location is outside, that kind of a feeling comes, and then again location is not there all the time, everywhere kind of a feeling. And like I'm really going with that to see
That's
the
right, that's
location.
right.
And I feel okay, yeah, I feel it. One moment I'm feeling, my heart is feeling, and I say, along with the heart also, along with the thinking also,
Yes.
along with my
Yes.
awareness also, and how I am aware that I am here.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, so
Yes.
how question comes up.
Yeah.
Then with the how question, all the thought arises, with that also I am there. And then I said, I don't have anything, then I am with that also.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Exactly. So at every moment you're looking.
Yeah.
Perfect. Great. That's great. So just continue that. Exactly.
Like how question gives you more.
That you like the how question. That it makes perfect
But
sense.
the problem is, how question makes me locate, but the problem is, how could be many, that can spin many more thoughts, and then I know that all the thoughts also, I feel it's like a chip going with every feeling, or it's a chip static chip, and then again come back to this feeling the silence and chip, and observing the chip, or the chip statically sitting and then everything falling through, and then no sense at all about all the other thoughts coming through, like weakened kind of a feeling. And I know that something is sitting, we're not even paying any attention to all these floating thoughts because of my search.
Yeah, exactly. Right, so you're noticing, right? It's as if, again, you're looking into like, a large glass or something like that, and there's a bunch of things that are parading as an image across this glass, and your job is, can I see the glass itself? Can I see the glass itself? Not the image, whatever the images are. As you notice, right, as you're looking, the images change. They can become very,
keep on changing and
keep
no
on
image.
changing, right. And so keep your eye focused on trying to find the glass or find I. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah.
To become a glass is easier.
Well, I mean, when you say become a glass, what do you mean by that?
What I mean by that, Oh, I observe that things are getting reflected. This feeling is getting reflected. I am in the mirror.
Yeah,
I
so
am
that-
reflecting, not pay no attention to that. It's a temporary
So,
boring.
so those thoughts, right? Like the thought, I am the glass, I am the witness, right? Which is a good thought, but we want to take it further. The thought that I am the witness is itself observed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? So this is itself an image. I am the witness is itself a thought that is
Yeah.
floating across the glass. So your job is the one who's aware of the thought, of the sense of being a witness. The one who's aware of the sense of being the witness.
Yes.
Where is that? Where am I? The I who's aware of the feeling of being a witness.
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll continue. This is good. That's good. It's good. Is there someone on Zoom, I think, who had a question?
Yeah, this is Akilesh. Could you speak to, in my experience, doing the inquiry in sort of the way that you're saying, it first starts to be this witness, I sense, who is witnessing, and then the more I'll go into that, then it's seen that that's just another thing, that sense, the witness itself, a sense. So then I kind of come sort of back out to something broader, because it's like, oh, this is just, this is a center of that's seen. And so that inquiry, that line of pursuit, that hunting in that direction stops, and there's something larger that's witnessing, but I can't quite. It sort of start to then open into something, but then that also kind of doesn't quite work, because it's an opening that's sensed. So where's that sensor?
Yes.
And so what's happening as a result of it is that there's much more formal inquiry, or it works in this way that there's, from this moment us to, sort of go into this witness and then come back out into this broadness, which is sort of hinting that there's very little effort to do than this chasing. It's a different direction. It's a relaxing and being really alert in this relaxing. And then that gets hazy. Then I go back into this, this sort of cycle. And the sense is to stay. So then sometimes I'll just be sitting, and instead of doing the whole rigmarole, I'm like just sitting right here. There is a sense of being, or whatever, something is aware, and I'm trying to be in there and or whatever, just sort of hunting that, you could say, but there isn't a movement like it was previously of going into the witness. There's a real movement there up until some point, and I was wondering if you could speak to that and how, because it seems to me that that's the place to stay, which is just here and just open and being alert and open, some version of that, and connecting the two, or so whatever. Maybe you can speak to that.
I would say, it's not the worst thing in the world if you stay just relaxed and open, but the reality is that when you say I'm staying in being, you're not actually staying in being. What you're staying in is in some feeling that you've labeled being, because anything which you're feeling, like I'm feeling this beingness, can't be the beingness, because the actual beingness is that which supports that feeling. Just like I.
Well, that's exactly the thing.
Right.
Yes, so I know that, but then there's no place to go, and so there's this like, what do I do here?
Well,
even if I'm relaxing into being, I really can't. I realize that this is also not it, and that's not it, and so now I'm sort of like, what do I do?
Well, that's why it's the chase. That's why it's the chase, right? So again, it's the continuous looking for, again, right? I'm witnessing whatever it is, and I'm gonna try to move towards that. I'm gonna try to move towards me, wherever that is. I'm gonna try to move towards me, and you're right. When you try to move towards me, you may again come to some other kind of dead end or impasse, or don't know where to go, and then again, I'm witnessing that, and again, I'm trying to move towards me, and again, this thing, you talk about going in towards the witness, out toward the broadness. These are all further thoughts, right? So whatever they are, you just keep on track, and you keep trying and trying and trying and trying and trying and trying and trying. That's the only way, because there has to be something which is pushing against the common sense, like, structure that's like the prison of thought, basically. Because it's a riddle. It's a riddle. It's saying, where am I? I'm neither in here nor out there. I'm neither there nor there. I'm not in this object or this object or this object or this object. I'm not in any of the senses. I'm not in any of the thoughts. I'm not in any of the feelings. And yet here I am. It's a riddle. So, I'm not anywhere in any of these things, and yet you experience me all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know me despite the fact that you can't pinpoint me anywhere, and yet you do know me somehow. So so the effort must be to keep trying to reorient yourself again and again and again to that knowledge somehow. And I know there isn't any obvious way to transcend the barrier, but the effort alone will, through continuity of effort, will eventually melt the attachments that are themselves are basically what is standing in the way between you and that recognition. So I would say, that's superior to trying to just stay open and relaxed. Oh.
Can I say something?
Oh, sorry, let me take an in-person question one, and then I'll come back.
From what I was thinking, it's when you start doing this inquiry, the mind is the one which is searching for the I feel like.
Yeah.
So the objective is to take the mind to the I and become one, right? So the seer and the seen comes together as one sense, one feeling. So when you try to do that, what happens is that sometimes that's where this I goes all over the place, going. So it's like a game, as you said, but it is like a hide and seek game. When you go there, it's gone. The whole idea is to make them into one sensation and try to be in that sensation. Who is in that sensation, then it goes away. That's where I get a little bit off.
Yeah, see, I think it's not that you cannot make it exactly one sensation. What you can do is, anything that you which feels like you, i.e. the mind, can just chase the I sensation. When you chase the I sensation intensely and long enough, and if the attachments are weak enough, blah, 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 then, you will probably eventually have, some kind of glimpse, which is, samadhi by grace that descends. And that moment, technically speaking, it's not like the I is gone. The I is merged in a special function of the ego, right? The ego is still there, but the ego is functioning in a special mode, which is, that mode of ecstasy and bliss and all of that, right? There's a sudden momentary liberation, right? And if it's permanent, it's a permanent liberation. But you can't get there directly from here. All you can do is you go to the boundary and you just keep on trying. And then suddenly, without knowing, you're let through. It's sort of like, it's a little bit analogous to going to sleep, right? So if you try to, you can't really force yourself asleep. All you can do is you can create the circumstance where I'm trying to go to sleep by being relaxed, letting go of everything else progressively, right? Progressively is a kind of surrender, you could say, right? Letting go of everything else. And at some point, when I'm not looking, sleep will come and seize me, And so the same way, I think, you go to that boundary, that threshold of inquiry, and you may not be able to get, you don't know, it's like a wall, like I can't get through. But then somehow, suddenly, at some point, you're on the other side, and you don't know how it happened.
So involuntarily it will happen.
Involuntarily happen by the dint of
Grace
effort, and then the grace of God, it will then suddenly happen, right? But you can't make it happen. You can't get there, and you shouldn't think about like I'm going to try to, because the unity is not something that we can't think that unity directly.
Yeah, we cannot stop there.
We cannot stop. Well, we can't get. We just have a false idea of unity. So all we can do is. So the best thing to do is just to focus like a laser beam on one thing, and then the unity will like intervene automatically by itself at some point.
So what happens when you think that you have the unity, you get the bliss there. You're so calm and happy.
Mm-hmm.
But then it goes away. So
Yeah.
then you see that's where you end up waiting.
Well, exactly. So, I mean, as soon as you can, right, in any moment of any kind of bliss, right, to try to notice, I'm still here in some way.
Yeah.
If you can,
Who's
if you can.
experiencing that
You know,
bliss.
even these great moments that, extraordinary, right, like even when you are glimpsing, right, so I would say there's a bit of a difference between just the silence and then beyond that into a kind of glimpse of the truth, right, where, like Ramana says, it's as clear as the, fruit in the palm of your hand, what reality is, right, that's a glimpse. But even in a glimpse is still an experience, because it has a beginning and an end, which means the observer is still there, which means the question is not answered. The question is not answered still. So, so who is observing that? Who is observing that? It keeps going until it doesn't, right? Because there is an end. There is an end. And the end it's very hard to describe what it could possibly mean. But it somehow is the case that this quest does not go on forever. It doesn't.
Continuous glimpse maybe?
Well, it's not a continuous glimpse because a glimpse it cannot be a
glimpse comes and goes.
It cannot be a continuous glimpse. Enlightenment cannot be a continuous glimpse. A glimpse is an experience. No experience goes on forever.
Yeah.
So the experience of realization cannot be a continuous glimpse. It's something different. It's a recognition, which is different than that.
Okay.
Yeah, because a glimpse is a reflection
Yeah.
of you. So it's the knowledge that I am that. I don't need to see it reflected to know it anymore.
Okay.
Because there's a reliance on reflection, right? A reliance on, I have to see it out there to know it, basically. That subject-object, kind of knowing. Eventually it sinks in that I am this. You no longer need to see someone say you are your name. You just know it directly. So that knowing is hidden behind that veil, a veil of other, there's two kinds of knowing. There's a non-dual knowing and then there's a dual knowing. And we're accustomed to the dual knowing, right? So you have to cut through the dual knowing and then the non-dual knowing is there. It doesn't work, one supports the other, but, we neglect the non-dual knowing, that's what it is.
Okay, that makes sense.
There's a question online, I think.
Thank you, Akilesh. Yes, I just wanted to comment quickly on the sort of language of the question. For me, when I do who am I, it potentially a more kind of static situation arises where I just feel like, oh, I'm this. Question answered, done. And then I have to kind of remind myself, no, who's noticing that? But when I ask the question, where am I?
Yeah.
Which is sort of like, where am I in this overall situation?
Yeah.
The answer does not come back, I'm here in this body, interestingly. No answer comes back, and yet, this for me really incites, this is a little bit commenting on what Hayam was saying, this really incites that feeling of a hunt. Because I'm here, where am I? Like, that really, it does not cause a kind of a static situation. It causes a very dynamic, like, wow.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like where am I as a question. I also like where am I as a question. I agree. Because, where am I located? Because it's as if you're sitting somewhere. But where are you seated? Where are you seated? Where are you seated? You're not seated, you as the observer, where are you actually? Where is your presence located? Because it is not located in any of the things we see. Those are all things which we're seeing. So where are we, the seer? Where are we sitting? Actually, I think where am I is a very, very useful question that way. 100% agree. Yeah. Anybody else?
Yes.
Go ahead.
There's just a follow-up on what you'd answered, Akilesh. Thank you for that. It seems like the sense would be, the analogy would be, say, taking the old school camera and focusing, with the lens. And right now with the witnessing, it's this long focus. You should move it around a few times to kind of really focus in on this thing to find out that it's not quite there. And you focus back out. That sort of movement's going on. What I'm sensing is over time, not finding it there and then been there so many times is that focusing doesn't go all the way back. It just kind of just focuses in and back, in and out in a very short range there. So it doesn't, like I can go all the way back, and sometimes that makes sense to go all the way back if I forget, but a lot of times it's like, just stay right here. It's just a slight focus. It's a slight shift. It's right here. So you've been there so many times and seen nothing there, and you've seen that it's out here, but then it's also not here. So just pay attention to here. So it's this very slight shift, but an alert shift that seems to be like where there's not this long hunt.
Yeah,
but
yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's true. You're absolutely right. So, over time, you're looking for I will require less and less like frantic, like long effort, right? It'll become more and more focused, right? Like less and less jitter, basically, right? Just until it becomes a very almost steady, like just refresh kind of thing. So you're right, you don't need to go in all kinds of directions. Eventually you'll see with the very subtle movement of mind, you'll be able to stay on track and keep hunting, basically, with a very, very small amount of effort. So, small amount, not effort, I would say small amount of movement of mind, basically, yeah.
So then the not knowing, not doership kind of knowledge, and that comes instantaneously then.
Yeah, non-doership that sense of non-doership can happen in two modes, either through a glimpse, where you'll temporarily feel like,
yeah,
I was never the doer, right?
Yes.
That's a glimpse, right?
Yes.
Or the deeper permanent recognition that the same thing, but it's not a glimpse, then that's permanent. So, yeah. But until it comes by grace, that recognition, we have to, in some sense, keep trying, exactly, precisely.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, that's it.
I really found it very insightful to separate glimpse versus recognition. So, would it be accurate to say, like when we say chasing,
Yeah.
The way I understand it again is to, like when we chase an object that is moving, that means we already know where the object is and it's moving all the time, it's trying to run away from us, and we try to chase it. Could we say what we are doing to get the recognition is to search rather than chase, because we haven't found it yet?
Well, but sure, you can use search instead of chase. The only thing is, this object is not something which, this object is something which you're feeling, right? So remember, keep that in mind, right? So we are feeling it, we just don't know where it is we're feeling it, or how it is we're feeling it, or what it is exactly that we're feeling, but we are feeling it. We're feeling ourselves. So, whatever language you want to use for that would work. Again, like to use that idea of like a laser pointer, right? Like a cat chasing, a laser pointer, wherever you point it, the cat goes, so it's going around and around, it's chasing it, right? The cat will never have the realization, well, maybe some cats, I don't know, but like that the pointer's coming from this little device, right? It's not on the wall, it's not on the blind, it's not on that door, it's not on this person. Like the light, it's just illuminating it temporarily. The source of the light is the point, right? So that, eventually for a human, hopefully it'll click. Oh my God, it's just being projected onto these other places. It's actually coming from this thing, which is different. This different thing, not a thing, but whatever it is, doesn't fit into other categories, the usual categories. So, when you hunt it through the categories over and over and over again, eventually it's going to occur to you that like, oh, I've been looking for, a square, but this is a circle or something like that, like everything, I've been looking in this little dimension, in this little bubble, but what I'm looking for is not in the bubble, actually. It's outside the bubble, So, you'll see clearly the little thinking trap you're in. That's what it is. Everything you see is has to fit within this little preconceived notion of how things are. It's because we're hunting within the preconceived notion we're not finding. But if you keep hunting within the preconceived notion, you'll eventually see, I have a preconceived notion. We're not able to see that. That's the problem. that becomes clear through that search eventually. And then you realize, oh yeah, this is actually a drawing on a piece of paper. And there's something outside the drawing. Not everything is contained in the drawing. Previously, you thought the drawing was real. It was all of reality. Eventually, you realize, no, this is just a piece of paper. It's only part of reality. There's something beyond it. And with that, we'll conclude for today. So, just this morning, I should say, we'll continue again this evening at 7:30 Pacific. And then tomorrow, again, there's a workshop at 4 p.m.
Tomorrow, no meditation.
Tomorrow, no meditation. Yes. I mean, we'll have meditation during the workshop, but not in the morning. Yeah. Thank you all again. And
Thank you.
thank you.